Okay, welcome in everyone to another deep dive. And today we're going to kind of turn the lens inward a bit. We're going to explore something um I think really fascinating about just being human, and that is the hidden versions of ourselves.
Oh,
Right? Like
yeah.
so like, all those identities you've kind of tried on when no one's looking, those quiet, sometimes very subtle shifts that have really like molded you.
Yeah.
Like, the real authentic you that you really only know in those quiet, solitary moments.
Right, like, everybody has them, like, all these inner selves that we don't that the world doesn't necessarily see, and I really think this deep dive is all about really acknowledging how real those experiences are and how much of an impact they have, those personal changes and those evolutions that take place when no one's watching.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this whole exploration is inspired by this really, really interesting piece called The Versions of You That No One Knew.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And it really delves into these kind of less visible parts of ourselves, right? Like those moments of quiet healing, those times when we're growing and we're evolving as people, but we're not necessarily, shouting it from the rooftops,
Yeah. Huh.
right?
Mm.
It's a more internal process. So what we want to do today is really unpack these ideas, help you guys see how incredibly significant they are in your own life story. Like, think about it.
Mm?
Who were you in those private spaces?
Right.
Like when no one was watching, who were you? And do those versions of you, do they even matter anymore?
Right.
And I think, as we'll see, the answer is a big, huge yes.
Yeah, a resounding yes, for sure. And so let's start off by really thinking about these unseen aspects, right? And one of the things the piece talks about is this really powerful image. It's this image of thinking about these inner versions of ourselves as these like secret rooms in a house, right? And each room kind of holds different emotions, different unspoken truths, and even some parts of ourselves, maybe that we haven't even fully looked at yet.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I really love that. I mean, I could really picture that, right? Like some of those rooms might feel really heavy, right? Maybe
Mhm.
shadowed by fear or something like that. And then others might feel really bright, right?
Yeah.
Like humming with like a secret, almost like a clandestine creativity.
Mhm.
And then maybe, maybe there's a room where all your like rage is, or one where like those really personal dreams live, the ones you've never even, told anybody about. Like, what do you think? If you think about your own life, is there like a specific room that comes to mind for you that maybe holds a certain emotion or an unexpressed truth?
Yeah, I can think of a couple, that's for sure. It's really making me think.
Yeah. And it's interesting to think about like why are those rooms there in the first place?
Mm.
Like, why do we have these inner versions of ourselves?
Mm.
And the source material talks about how, a lot of times it's about shame, right?
Mhm.
Or fear, or even trauma. Or sometimes it's just like we don't feel safe enough to be certain parts of ourselves out in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we don't feel safe to show those parts of ourselves. So we kind of create these rooms as like protective spaces.
Totally. Yeah. And I was thinking about like even just real life examples, right? Like, think about that quiet kid in school, the one who maybe didn't talk a lot, but like seemed to be taking everything in,
Yeah.
right? And you wonder, like, what was going on inside their head? Like maybe inside they had this whole world of thoughts and ideas and feelings,
Mhm.
but they just, they were waiting for the right moment to share them. Or think about like, someone who's always like achieving, right? Like hitting every goal, meeting all these external demands, but inside they're maybe struggling with, imposter syndrome,
Or
or they're just like burned out,
yeah.
like they're exhausted.
Right, exactly. And what about like that person who is so good at, social situations? They're like the life of the party. They're always out, doing things. But maybe secretly they actually really crave, quiet time. They need those moments to themselves. And all that socializing is like actually super draining for them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like they're putting on a show, right?
Yeah.
We think they're loving it, but really they're not.
Right, exactly. And honestly, maybe the most universal one is, the person who seems so composed on the outside. They smile through everything, they keep it together, but
Yeah.
but then privately they're dealing with all these difficult emotions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And it really makes you think, right? Like all these parts of us that maybe other people don't see, but they're still really shaping who we are.
Yeah, they're really influencing us.
Right. Yeah. And the piece makes this really good point that just like acknowledging that they exist, like just bringing them into your awareness is a huge first step, right?
Absolutely. Just recognizing that those rooms are there, you
Right.
know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about transformation. And one thing the source material points out is that you know, our society often connects growth with like external validation.
Oh, for sure.
Right. Like we live in a world where like everyone's talking about glow ups and they're documenting their journeys online.
Yeah, it's all over social media.
Right. And it's like there's this pressure to like perform your healing, right? To have these before and after stories.
Yeah, like it doesn't even count unless you post about it.
Right, exactly. But but the reality, and I think this is what the piece is getting at, is that like those really big, profound, lasting personal shifts, they often happen in those quiet moments, Like when no one else is even aware of them.
It's those private moments that really change us.
Yeah. And it's interesting to think about specific examples, right? Like think about the decision to leave a toxic relationship. I mean, that's a huge, huge choice, right?
Yeah, huge choice, and usually a really personal one.
Right. Like usually you make that decision on your own.
Yeah.
Or what about quitting a job that's just like sucking the life out of you?
Oh man, I've been there.
Right. Like that feeling of freedom when you finally do it.
Yeah.
It's often something that only you can really feel.
Yeah.
And what about forgiveness? Like making the choice to forgive someone even when they haven't apologized or maybe even acknowledged what they did. Like these are really big changes and they often happen without an audience.
Yeah, sometimes you don't even need the other person to be involved. It's really about like an internal shift.
Yeah, it's about you. And there's this real tension there, right? Like you're growing, you're becoming a different person, but at the same time, you still have love and understanding for the person you were before.
Right.
It's rarely like a totally clean break,
Right, yeah, that's messy, right?
Yeah, it's messy. And the other thing to think about is that, growth isn't always easy, right? Like there can be a lot of different emotions that come with it. And the source material talks about how sometimes there's actually grief in healing.
Oh, for sure.
Like you're letting go of old patterns, even if those patterns were hurting you.
Right.
And there can be this feeling of loneliness, like especially if the people around you aren't going through those same shifts.
Yeah, like you're kind of on your own in a way.
Right. Yeah. And now I want to talk about those past versions of ourselves. The piece encourages us to kind of rethink how we see them, especially the versions of us that helped us through those really tough times, even if they weren't always the versions we're proud of looking back.
Yeah, like we're not always our best selves,
Yeah.
right? But those versions still got us through.
Right, exactly. And the piece talks about how important it is to offer grace to those past selves, to be kind to them. Because I mean, they were doing the best they could with what they had at the time.
Absolutely. They were working with what they knew then.
Right. Yeah. And it's about honoring them, not because they were perfect, but because they were resilient.
Right.
Like they got you through it.
Yeah, they got you through those tough times. They carried you.
Hmm. Yeah. Why do you think it is that we're often so hard on those past versions of ourselves? Like, why is it so easy to judge them?
That's a really good question, and I think part of it is that we're looking back with hindsight, right? And we forget what it was like to be in those moments when everything felt uncertain and we didn't have all the information that we have now. So we judge our past actions based on what we know now, but we forget that we were learning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we forget that we were trying to make the best decisions we could with what we knew at the time.
Exactly.
And the piece also brings up this feeling of guilt that can come up when our growth takes us in a different direction than the people around us. Like sometimes people want us to stay the same. They want us to be that older, smaller version of ourselves.
Oh yeah, I've definitely seen that. Like they liked you better the way you were, even if you weren't happy or fulfilled.
Yeah. And have you experienced that yourself or seen it in other people's lives?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's something that comes up a lot in relationships, right? Like when one person starts to change and grow, it can be unsettling for the other person, and there's this desire for things to stay the same, even if that means the other person isn't really living their truth.
Yeah. And the piece makes this really powerful statement, which is that like you don't owe it to anyone to regress. You don't have to shrink yourself down to fit into someone else's comfort zone.
Yeah, like you're allowed to grow, you're allowed to change.
Yeah. But you do owe those past versions of yourself gratitude.
Yeah.
Right? It's gratitude for getting you to where you are now.
Yeah, like appreciate the journey they went on.
Mm-hmm. So here we are, right? Like in this present moment, We're talking about who you are now, and one thing the piece highlights is that this isn't like a static thing,
Oh, yeah, it's always changing, right?
right? Like personal development isn't a straight line.
Hmm.
It's not like this neat, predictable path.
Yeah.
Like the piece even says that feeling like a different person every week is totally normal.
Yeah. I mean, we're always evolving, right? Every experience, every interaction, it all shapes us.
Yeah. And what I find really encouraging is this idea that you can embrace the you that you are becoming and the you that you will be in the future without needing to like justify it to anyone or get their approval.
Like, it's okay to just be on your own journey.
Yeah, it's your journey. And it really is about like making those changes because you want to,
Right.
right? Not because of external pressures or what other people expect.
Right. It's got to come from within.
Yeah. And the piece reminds us that like every single past version of ourselves, like the scared version, the loud version, the lost version, the hopeful version, they've all contributed to who we are now.
Yeah, they're all part of the story.
Yeah. We're an accumulation of all those lived experiences, right?
Yeah. Right. And it really emphasizes that like identity isn't this fixed thing, It's
Yeah.
not a label that you just get stuck with. It's fluid, it's constantly changing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like you're a work in progress.
Exactly.
And the piece also validates this feeling that a lot of people have, which is that like sometimes you don't even have the words for who you're becoming, you know? Like you're in this in-between space where you're changing, but you can't quite articulate it yet.
Yeah, like you feel it, but you don't have the language for it yet.
Yeah, exactly. And that's okay.
Yeah, it's part of the process.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think it's really important to come back to this idea that like all those unseen parts of your journey, they matter,
Oh, they're so important.
right? Like all that effort you put in, all those challenges you faced, even when no one was watching, it's all significant.
Yeah, and we need to change how we think about those past versions of ourselves. Instead of seeing them as like mistakes or failures, we need to see them as like these important pieces, that make up who we are today.
Yeah, like you're this beautiful mosaic, right? And every version of yourself, even the ones you keep private or the ones you're still maybe grieving, they're all part of that mosaic.
Yeah, they all make you,
And
yeah.
and the big takeaway here, I think, is that like you don't need external validation to make your journey meaningful.
No, not at all.
Like your personal growth, even if it happens quietly, even if no one else notices, it's still valuable.
Yeah, it's about honoring your own process.
Yeah. So as you move forward, I want you to think about all the things that have brought you to this moment, all those unseen efforts, and ask yourself, what strengths might you discover when you really acknowledge those hidden versions of yourself? And what might change in your life right now if you could offer a little more understanding, a little more compassion to a past version of you?
Such a good question. Really makes you think.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.